Are you interested in reading a short classic novel that has romance, sexism, and societal issues? Then I would highly recommend A Room with a View by E.M Forster, or welcome to my YouTube channel. I like to read classic and literature fiction where after my read I like to do a little bit of word vomit on a video format. So if that's something interesting, then please give me a like and a follow. In this video I'll go over the plot and the themes, and then I would recommend or not recommend this book to you. The novel opens up with two young British women, Lucy and her cousin and chaperone Charlotte. They're staying at a hotel in Florence, Italy. During dinner, they're having a discussion. They're a little bit disappointed on their reservation. They have been booked in a room without any view. During their discussion, two men overhear this conversation. They get up and offer to exchange rooms. These men are the Emerson. We have Mr. Emerson and his son, George Emerson, who happens to be the same age or similar age with Lucy. Right off the bat, Charlotte immediately rejects this proposal. Charlotte is dumbfounded and also insulted by the straightforwardness from these men. After further discussion, they eventually accept this proposal as they find out that Emerson only have good intentions. So now the girls have room with a view. The novel goes into a scene where Lucy is walking around Florence and she sees two Italian men get into a fight, and that fight turns very violent in front of her, a little bit of stabbing involved. This causes Lucy to collapse on spot, but thankfully we have our hero, George Emerson, who also happens to be around this scene, around the fighting happening, and he catches Lucy before she falls to the ground. This gesture leaves a very favorable impression of George Emerson on Lucy. A few days later, the patrons of the hotel, including Lucy, Charlotte, and the Emerson, they take a day trip to right outside of Florence, Italy, where everyone kind of gets separated and they end up kind of doing their own thing. We have this scene, very, very poetic scene, where Lucy kind of is walking around by herself and there's a bunch of flowers just kind of on a hill, very beautifully written. Then we have our George Emerson just suddenly pop up and impulsively kisses Lucy. But the whole thing is seen by Charlotte, who accidentally bumps into this intimate moment. And then we're back at the hotel where Charlotte is apologizing to Lucy for being a very bad chaperone. She is taking all the blame for getting Lucy entangled with somebody that is of lower class. They decide to leave the hotel in Florence right away, and they decide to go to Rome to finish up their trip. Charlotte also confirms that she's going to keep this secret between Lucy and her. The novel does a big time skip, and we're back in England. Lucy's back home in England, and she's back in her estate called Windy Corner. Mrs. Honeychurch, who is her mother, and Freddie Honeychurch, who is Lucy's brother. They're actively waiting for Lucy to get back after she just got proposed. They are waiting for the result of the proposal. Lucy eventually confirms that she has agreed to marry their family friend Cecil Wyse. Cecil Wyse is written as prideful, pretentious, and he often looks down on people not of his social class. He comes from a very affluent background in London and often looks at the people from countryside, and he looks down upon them. As a reader, we get to see this incompatibility between Lucy and Cecil very early on. They just don't seem to be hitting it on. Thinks of himself as sophisticated and authoritative, but comes off as awkward. Very, very awkward. In one scene, we have Cecil and Lucy just walking down or like strolling by a lake together. They're holding hands or something. And eventually they stop and Cecil asks Lucy if he can kiss her. They do eventually kiss, but this is a very awkward kiss, and they both kind of have this awkwardness feeling between them. We can tell externally as readers that this may or may not last. Eventually, one day, Lucy learns that there's people moving into a villa really, really close to her house. These people that are moving are the Emersons. George Emerson is befriended by Freddie, her brother, and is often asked to hang out and play tennis with them at the Windy Corner. George's presence kind of flusters Lucy. Once again, as a reader, we're externally kind of able to gauge that the fire between Lucy and George was never put away. There's always that lingering tension between these two, just reading line by line. One of the tennis game when Lucy and George are playing amongst each other, we see Cecil, who doesn't like to partake in these kind of social events. He is off to the corner reading a book. So reads a passage from the novel, in which the novel's heroine is sitting on a riverbank in spring and is suddenly kissed by her lover. Lucy immediately realizes that this scene was modeled after her kiss with George, and Lucy immediately becomes flustered. She realizes that Charlotte, her chaperone, and her cousin broke off the promise and told Miss Lavish, who was also staying at the hotel at the same time. Miss Lavish is a upcoming novelist, so she did write the scene between Emerson and Lucy. After the tennis game, Lucy, Cecil, and George are leaving the court. During the leave, Cecil had to turn around and pick up his book as he left his book. At this moment, we have Lucy and George alone one more time. George kisses Lucy one more time, and he even confesses his love for Lucy and how he knows that Lucy isn't in love with Cecil. This makes Lucy very angry and tells George that he needs to leave Windy Corner at once. She still plans on marrying Cecil. After George leaves Windy Corner and Lucy is back with Cecil, she looks at Cecil and suddenly realizes that he is absolutely intolerable. Same evening, she breaks up the engagement. Cecil is stunned, and Lucy explains that she wants to choose for herself. She wants to follow what is ladylike. She doesn't want to be controlled or stifled by a man. But at the end, the novel ends with Lucy back at that same hotel, staring out that same window from that same room she stayed a few months ago. But we also get to see George consoling her right after getting eloped. And that is how that novel ends. So we have few themes to go over. One of the most relevant themes in this novel was the gender roles and the sexism. The novel is filled with diminishing the values of women and patronizing the woman. There's very strict rules and manners a woman of Lucy's caliber must follow. And Emerson wrote this in a very realistic way, where most of the women characters were the one policing these gender norms and gender roles among Lucy. Lucy's mom, Charlotte, and other minor characters were always patronizing Lucy and basically pigeonholing her into this role that she should be following because of her social class. That was very strongly written by E.M Forster. I really enjoyed that part of the novel. And the second one I wanted to talk about is society and social classes in Edwardian society. If you read E.M Forster before, then you know this theme is very relevant across all of his work. E.M Forster uses Italy and Lucy as a critique on the restrictive society norms, or the societal classes that the English had. So we have Italy, where our characters are freely able to express themselves and they aren't held with societal norms back at home in England. And then we have Lucy, her progression as character. We get to see her go from somebody that used to comply. Now we get to see Lucy as a very expressive character and doesn't limit herself due to her social background. Once again, I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.